Hi everyone, I'm Tock and on this video we're going to talk all about the different embroidery options of the Brother Stellaire XJ1. In the previous video we talked all about the different sewing features that I could find. In this one we're going to focus just on embroidery and the hoops and all the materials that come with this machine. Now in the last video we set up the entire machine and did a full demonstration on that and navigating the menu, but what we did not do is put the embroidery harness on, so we're going to get ready to do that right now. Once your machine is off, you can just slide the sewing arm off, and we are going to take the embroidery arm and we're just going to slide it right where that was. Now as you're putting this on, you'll notice there's a plug right here that will go into the machine itself, and that will tell the machine that this is connected and everything should be good to go. Now I'm just going to remove any tape or cardboard that might be on here so that the machine can move properly. Something else that's really important to mention is there is a little lever underneath the left side of the harness here, so when I squeeze it and pull, that is how you get the embroidery arm off. Otherwise it will lock itself into place and it shouldn't come off. The first thing I noticed when I put this on is just how long the machine is, which is great because we're going to be able to do some huge embroideries. So you're going to need probably at least 36 or 7 inches of table space to make sure that you've got enough room to work with this machine. Now I'm going to turn the machine on for the first time with this attached, and I want to see if anything moves or anything like that. Alright, so this is letting me know that it's going to calibrate the position of this. Perfect. So we won't be using the sewing category for obvious reasons, but we will be focusing on embroidery and the Disney category, which I believe is just Disney embroideries. And just in case we get stumped on anything, there is the full operations guide that will help us with any of our embroidery setup or demos. Now, before we start looking at designs and hooping fabric, the first thing we're going to do is install the embroidery presser foot, which is this unit here, and this is normally pretty easy to swap out. Now normally when you want to switch a presser foot, you just press the release button in the back and put on your new foot. But this one we have to replace the entire unit, which is not as hard as it sounds. So we are just going to loosen this bolt here, and the whole thing should just kind of fall down. Okay, so when it's loose enough, it'll just fall out like that. Okay, so once you've got your standard presser foot out, we can take our embroidery presser foot. Now I'm going to push this in from the back of the machine. So we want to line up this slot here with where the threaded part of that bolt is right there. So just from the back, it's just going to go like that. Now it'll kind of move around a little bit, but once we start tightening the bolt, it should orient the presser foot so that it's upright in the regular position. Now I'm just tightening this with my hand until I can't tighten it anymore, and then we're going to use the little screwdriver here. And we're going to tighten it, not super tight, but just enough to where it's not going to go anywhere. All right, perfect. That feels nice and secure. So now this is new for me. There's a little plug here, so let's figure out where this goes. Okay, so looking behind where we just installed our foot, we're just going to grab this wire on the back left side of the machine, and there's a socket right here. And that will just snap in like that, and I believe it's ready to go. So I'm just going to wind a quick bobbin for embroidery, and then we will figure out what design we want to use. All right, so our bobbin is wound, so we'll get it in the machine. And now let's look at all the hoops that come with this machine. Now here are all the hoops that come with the machine right out of the box. And in inches, you've got a 4x4 inch hoop here, 5x7, 9.5 by 9.5, and 9.5 by 14 inches. It's really nice to have this kind of variety with all these hoops that come with the machine. And there are some optional ones too, like the magnetic hoop is amazing, but that is something you'll have to order separately. All right, so we're going to do our first embroidery with the 4x4 hoop that's got this style of attachment here. I've just got a piece of green denim with some pre-cut tearaway stabilizer here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew the bottom here so I can get the top out. And I gotta say, I've never seen this before, but it's got a pivoting bottom screw, which is really nice for when you can't get in there. Anyway, I'm going to loosen this quite a bit so that I can get all this material in here. Now I'm just going to lay the bottom part of the hoop down with our fabric and stabilizer on top. Then we're just going to hoop the top part in. I'm not really pulling the fabric tight because this is a pretty small hoop, so it should end up being pretty flat. All right, so that looks good. Now I'm just going to tighten the bottom screw here. All right, that seems like it's in good shape, so let's see how we mount this into the machine. All right, so we're back in the machine. I've never used this type of attachment before, but I've got our hooped fabric, and I'm just gonna feed it in to, there's kind of a slot that the arm wants to go through right there. Now I'm just gonna push this with my thumb on the bottom here. Make sure that your presser foot is up so it can slide through. We're just gonna push this all the way in, and then it just says to lower that. That's it. I've used other machines where you have to like snap it into bolts and other things, but that was really easy. I think it's secure on there, so now we get to figure out what we're gonna embroider. Now this machine comes preloaded with tons of different embroidery designs and Disney designs for embroidery, but if you want to import your own from your computer or you make your own, we have to go back into the settings, which I didn't cover this in the last video. So we're going to do the wireless LAN wizard setup, and I'm going to look for my Wi-Fi, which is Tock City. Now once you enter your password, it asks you to press OK, and hopefully it will do a connection test. All right, and once it's connected, it should say your Wi-Fi at the top here. All right, now that we've got our fabric hooped and loaded into the machine, we have to figure out what we want to embroider. So I can either look at their preloaded designs here or all of the different Disney designs, or I can load up my own since we've connected it to Wi-Fi. So since we're doing a 4x4 inch embroidery, I want to keep this simple and just do a single color job. So let's do something in this category. And I kind of like this design with the basket full of sewing supplies. So let's see how this looks if we just run this with, I don't know, black thread. All right, so now that we know what design and what color we want this to be, so I'm just going to thread this the same way we would thread it for sewing. All right, so our thread is loaded. Now I just have to figure out how to lower the foot and start the job. Right, before we start the job, I should probably point out what a lot of these different things are. So this is the default size, which is actually bigger than our hoop because we have a 100 by 100 millimeter hoop in there. This tells us how many stitches are in the embroidery. This tells us how long it'll take, and this tells us how many different colors it is. So we've got one color, which we're gonna do that dark blue. That is set, and now this will take us to the next screen of where it's going to show up in the hoop and how big it's going to be and things like that. So I want to edit this so it's a little bit smaller, so I can go to size. Now there's two different ways to resize something, and this is really important. If I keep this as this setting, it will shrink the size of it, and if I do that, it's still going to be too big for our hoop. But this one here will allow us to resize. I'm going to say OK. Now this will let us resize it, but it will scale the density bigger or smaller, so we should be able to change the size way more. So if I had selected the density scaling button and I want to either blow this up really, really big, it'll fill a full hoop, or I can shrink it all the way down to fit within that 4x4 inch hoop. So I'm gonna go until the height is just under 100 millimeters, which that should fit there at 99 by 82 millimeters. So I'm going to hit OK. Now if I hit the move button, this will let me move my design around my fabric. I want to be right in the middle though, so I will hit OK. I don't need to rotate or mirror or do any of that stuff. So I'm going to hit the embroidery button. So now that we have our design set up, it's the size, density, and position that I want it at. That all looks good. I'm going to look over here and we're going to lower our presser foot, and it's normal for the foot to not actually touch the fabric itself. And now when I hit this embroidery button down here, if everything is set up correctly, this red light should turn green here. So I'm going to hit embroidery, that turns green, and now when we hit that, it's going to start the job. The light is green, so I'm going to hit go. I did switch the thread color to white since I thought it would show up a little bit better, so let's see how this looks. All right, so we're all done. That only took about 8 minutes, and I was really happy that it trimmed every single jump stitch throughout the project. So anyway, I'm going to lift the hoop and take this out and see how it looks. All right, and here's how it looks close up. This looks very clean. No issues with thread tension on either side. Let's look at the back. That might be kind of hard to tell, but this all looks really clean in the back too. Anyway, this looks great, and I'm really happy there's no jump stitches I need to trim anywhere at all, so this is done. All right, so start to finish, that is how we do a basic embroidery on a small hoop with navigating the menus and loading everything up. But I want to show you some other features using some more colors and larger hoops and custom designs. All right, so next I wanted to show you how to transfer files from the computer over to the machine. So I prepared a 5x7 inch hoop with black denim and stabilizer. So I'm going to go into the embroidery category one more time, and rather than choose any of these pre-mades, we're going to hit the little Wi-Fi button. And I preloaded a couple of designs on here. So I'm going to pick this Renegade Star. And this one has two different colors. So we're going to do the white first, and then it's going to do the red. So what I need to do is load in my white thread first, and then we are going to do everything just like we did before. All right, so we already have white thread in here from earlier, which is fine. So I'm going to load this one in the same way we did the 4x4 inch hoop. Okay, this all looks good, and it does show that the measurements are 91 by 91 millimeters, which is just under 4 inches either direction, which will fit very well in this hoop. So I'm just gonna hit set and embroidery, and then put our foot down, and we should be good to go here. Okay, so this one's gonna take about 10 minutes doing the white thread, and then it'll take about 10 minutes doing the red thread, and I'll show you how to do a color change when we get to that point. Okay, in the middle of my white thread here, I got a little pop-up that says the bobbin thread is almost empty. Now, normally I'd have to take out the hoop and refill a bobbin and all that, but this is new for me. So I'm gonna hit this button. It's gonna cut the thread, and then I think it's gonna lift the foot, and then hopefully just move the whole thing out of the way. That's really cool. So I don't even have to take the hoop out. Now I can just pop the bobbin out and refill it. Now, without actually unthreading the needle, I'm just going to set the cone off to the side a little bit, and then put in my embroidery bobbin thread here, and then just wind a bobbin like normal. All right, and we're going to continue on with finishing our white stitches. All right, so we're done with the white thread. Now I can take the white thread cone out, and we're going to put in our red embroidery thread now. All right, so that's all loaded up. Now it's going to do the red section of our stitches here, which should take about 10 or 11 minutes. So we should be able to hit go, and this will finish up. All right, so we are done with our second embroidery, and this is our first multicolored embroidery. All right, this looks very clean. I see a couple of jump stitches which are cut on one side, so it'll be easy for me to clean this up. All right, and that felt really good too. The machine is really quiet. As far as using a single needle for multicolored, this is the best experience I've had. And I know this is a small embroidery, but it looks really good, and I could use this in all kinds of stuff. All right, so now it's time for me to use one of the bigger hoops. So I'm going to use the 9.5 by 9.5 inch hoop. So first I'm going to load it in, and then I'm going to figure out what do we want to embroider here. All right, so I've got a piece of yellow stretch denim with a tearaway stabilizer, and I want to look at some of these Disney designs here. So I was a big fan of Aladdin when I was a kid, so let's do the genie here. All right, so this here at the bottom is telling me that there are 7 different colors and 12 different thread changes. So I want to make sure I've got all these different colors ready, and we're going to start with this darker blue at the top. All right, now I'm not going to sit here and explain what I'm doing, so let's just time lapse all of this and see how it looks when it's finished. All right, this looks really good. I'm going to clean up the stitches, and then let's see how this looks. So here's our finished genie embroidery. I think this turned out perfectly. I did the whole thing in under 30 minutes with all of the thread changes and only a couple of jump stitches. All right, so that is the basics of embroidering with the Brother Stellaire XJ1. I'm really impressed with a lot of things in this machine, and there's tons of features I did not cover, but I just wanted to cover the absolute basics and really get a feel for the machine. This machine could nearly replace all of the different machines that I've got in my studio. Not that I would do that because I love all my machines, but it's really cool to know that you could start with a machine like this and accomplish so many things. There's tons of other features this machine can do, like appliques and patches and automated quilt stitching. So if you want to see some of those techniques, please let me know. Otherwise, I just wanted to keep this really simple. Big thank you to Brother Sewing Machines and to Sewing Machines Plus for sponsoring this video. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we will see you in the next tutorial.